Well, sort of professionals.
I mean,
We're
ladies
still
and
trying.
gentlemen, welcome to Thursday night on the American Sci-Fi Classics Track. It is time for a quarantine panel, and we're going to do these until morale improves, and it hasn't yet. We've been doing these for. Here's what you do: just if you're not doing anything productive, which, come on, you know yourself. Go on to YouTube. We have got hours upon hours of geeky DragonCon-like panels that we have been doing every week or every 2 weeks since the beginning of the collapse of civilization. And now tonight, never mind all that, we are going to talk about fictional sports.
Yes.
Our favorite sports that technically aren't real.
Yeah. Tony Ann, yes, no one is wearing protective gear because we're hardcore.
We are look, the way we do it, we don't we don't need protection where we're going. What is happening? It's off the rails and I haven't even started. Ladies and gentlemen, here are your panelists. One internet south of me, Mr. Darin Bush.
Hello, Joe Crowe Show. My name is Darin Bush. I am allowed to say in public that I'm an award-winning science fiction and fantasy short story writer. But the reason I'm here is because I let Joe and Gary beat up on me in public, which, as far as you guys are concerned, is the much more impressive qualification. So that's me.
And one internet
He likes it.
Yeah. One internet diagonally from me, Shaun. Welcome.
Hey, everybody. Thanks for having me. And yeah, I'm ready to talk about some fictional sports. When I heard about this, I was like, oh my God, I have so many stupid movies because the best B movies have the weirdest fictional sports. And I'm like, I want to talk about all of them. So I'm ready for it. Screw Quidditch. Quidditch is off the list. We don't talk about Quidditch here. That's
what?
too easy.
We don't talk about Quidditch.
We don't talk about Quidditch.
That's
Quidditch
why I'm here.
We don't talk about Quidditch.
That is low fruit.
And now, finally, amongst the panelists, it's my unindicted co-conspirator, Mr. Gary Mitchel.
Thank you, everyone. It is good to be here. It's going to be a good game today. We're going to play. We're going to be brave. We're going to win. We're going to go out there and we're going to show them what we're made of.
But right now, Gary, I'm going to toss it over to you, sir, because there it is. Right, okay, why was I pointing that way? All right, there.
I don't know.
There it goes. Okay, good.
Oh, Joe. Joe, are you okay? Oh.
That's why you wear protective gear, people.
Yes.
Now Joe is out of the conversation because he didn't wear his helmet. See, Tony Ann knew. She predicted, and R.I.P. Joe Crowe. So
yeah, I am checking with the Classics Track medical team now.
Yes.
So far, they have managed to safely escort Joe off of the field. I'm getting word that they're icing his. Oh, you don't want ice there. No.
What's a coccyx? I don't understand what a coccyx is.
Yeah, well, whatever a coccyx is, they are definitely putting ice on it.
Okay.
Or icy hot. I'm not sure. It's gonna. But Joe we'll be checking in on Joe throughout the course of the evening, ladies and gentlemen, and updating you on his condition.
Yes.
So let's get the big quaffle out of the way and go, Darin. I'm sure, and everyone can see it from their background. The biggest fictional sport I think that's out there right now is ye old Quidditch. What makes people like Quidditch?
I don't know that many people that really like the sport of Quidditch itself, except for how it helps somehow magically, pun intended, to move the plot along so regularly. I just want to start by saying that I am a huge Harry Potter geek, but Quidditch has got to be one of the dumbest sports ever made up. And they're all made up. I was thinking about this in preparation for this panel, and I was sitting there going, okay, wait. So Quidditch is an indication of one of two things. Either Quidditch was a game invented back when the losers were executed, and so what happens during the game isn't so bad as if you lose, or it's an indication of how arrogant the wizards are about being able to, mend broken bones and clean up bruises and, get the blood out of robes. Who was sitting there going, all right, we've got all these high school age kids, essentially middle age and high school age kids. Let's go ahead and let's make sure that 2 of the balls in the game are trying to injure them at all times. That's right. And the committee went, oh yeah, we hate kids.
Yeah. Well, and they're flying at 30, 40 miles an hour on a broom, 40, 50, 60 feet in the air. Nothing bad will happen if you fall off the broom. It really is a testament to the magic of Harry Potter that nobody dies from the fall. I mean, it's like, it's like we see people fall, they break their bones, like you said, and then instantly, there was the infamous incident where like Harry's bones are just gone. Like all the bones in your arm, just gone. That, that can't be good for you. Right. Nobody falls and like snaps their neck and like, well, there's no healing that. Sorry. Did they sign the waiver? He signed the waiver.
Some kind of like little anti-grav, like magic spell in the last 6 inches of the field. So that way it hurts, but it's never going to be deadly. So like you're going to feel it. You're going to break something, but you're not going to be street pizza.
Right.
Yeah,
and I understand
that's what I've always assumed.
Yeah, and I understand it's a school thing, so you have to have a sport because, I mean, how many schools make all their money off the sports?
Right.
And teams and all the stuff where that's force fed us of camaraderie and teamwork and yada yada yada, all the stuff that sports supposedly teaches people. So, but like you said, this is like so convoluted. Do you think it's convoluted just so that she doesn't have to explain it?
I really would like to think that it was created in order to mock British sports. I'm thinking of cricket. I'm looking at you, cricket bat. I think that I think she was either mocking us stupid Americans who don't understand cricket, or she was mocking cricket,
or both,
or both. But yeah, the game itself is just, if you start looking at it and you do any kind of basic arithmetic at all, it is really silly. It's really very silly.
And the thing that I always kind of thought was just ridiculous is, it's like, okay, well, but remember, you can't end the game until you get the snitch. And basically whoever has a snitch wins at the end. I mean, they've talked about it, games have gone on for days because people can't catch the snitch, but whoever catches the snitch invariably wins. And it's like, really? Like, really? You can't run up the score that high where 50 points, or what was it, 50 or 150 points?
It was 150, I think.
Yeah. 150. It's like some insane number. It's like there's no way that you're ever going to get enough offensive points where, if the seeker is able to pick up that snitch, you're done and still come out with a win.
Well, you see, they were playing the Atlanta Falcons.
Right. But so as my wife just said off screen, she was like, but if you find a way to kill the seeker, well, then technically there's nobody legally there to get that snitch, and then you can go ahead and just run the board.
Yeah.
So
because Darin, correct me if I'm wrong, Darin, but hasn't the game continued when people have died playing?
Yeah. There's nothing in the rules that indicates that death is even a timeout.
Yeah.
Like one of the things that happens in the books is that Madam Hooch is yelling at one of the Slytherins for doing something that's against the rules while the other Slytherin is behind her scoring goals. I was like, wait. They don't have timeout in Quidditch? What? Just the basic decency to go, this person is dead. Can we just take a few seconds to get them off the field before you score more goals? It's like, what?
But obviously, Shaun, we know you don't particularly care for it. But Darin, what is it that you enjoy about reading about Quidditch, or just the thought of it?
Well, I mean, I have thoughts and feelings about it, Gary.
Well, yeah, it seems like you don't care.
Bad thoughts and feelings about it because no, seriously, like, okay, when we're talking about fictional sports, there are so many weird things out there. We all know freaking Quidditch. Do we really need to talk about it? Like, it's like, yeah, Quidditch. Yeah, let's talk about the other weird sports, man.
That's why we're getting it out of the way now.
Okay, yeah, I got my Quidditch. I just want to end with it. All week I've been trying to figure out how to appropriately sneak in snitches get stitches, but I couldn't make it happen because it's backwards.
Yeah.
So there you go, Shaun. Snitches don't get stitches.
They don't.
Yeah.
But sometimes
and-
seekers will get stitches because they went after the snitches.
Yes.
There you go.
Yeah, and as Kevin and Cafferty points out in the comments, sometimes there are people who have turned, and this has happened at Conjuration, which let's plug your convention, Darin. There are people playing real life Quidditch, running around with a broom stuck between their legs.
We do play Muggle Quidditch at Conjuration, which is in November.
But wait, now, do you have real life Boffles? Does somebody dress up as the aggressive Boffle and go running around and they just get to tackle like other players? Because I would love to be that ball. Like I'm just like a giant chomp from like Mario, and I just go and I knock people the frick over. That would make that game imminently more interesting.
All right, so everybody go on the Conjuration Facebook page and tell them that Shaun wants to be the ball.
I will be the ball.
We will get him there to be the ball.
I will run people over, man. Just
And we have to get you one of those little things at the hotel desk so you can be the belle of the ball.
There you go.
Oh.
Joe's not here to throw me out.
Oh, I'm sorry. I want to be the bludger, not the quaffle. Thank you. Tony Ann got me.
Tony Ann, too late. He already is.
So I don't care. I just want to be the ball that beats the crap out of people. That is the one thing I actually like about the sport, is that there are aggressive balls that are just there to beat the crap out of players.
You heard it here on the Classics Track. Aggressive balls.
Aggressive balls.
Hashtag aggressive balls.
Hashtag aggressive balls. Sean's a fan.
I'm getting word from the medical staff.
Okay.
They've got Joe iced down. Apparently, he's torn his Gallagher. So they're working on trying to see if they can get him back onto the pitch before halftime.
Gary, I have a follow-up to that. I heard that he's going to need a cloaca transplant.
Oh,
Joe has a cloaca?
Yeah, well, he stores his head there.
Oh. Well, there we go. Okay, got it.
Yeah, quick, everybody Google other weird body parts.
Yes.
If nobody Google cloaca, you'll laugh.
No, don't Google images not at work.
Yeah.
So speaking of R-rated, Shaun, what kind of fictional sport would you like to talk about?
Okay, honest to God, the very first one that came to mind, but because of all the stuff that's happening in the real world, I don't want to talk about it, because the very first sport I wanted to talk about was robot jocks.
Oh gosh, yes.
And it feels a little poor taste, but it's just. So I'm going to pivot from that. If you don't know robot jocks, you should go find it. Basically, after nuclear war, the superpowers of East and West, they start basically making giant mecha, and these mecha fight for land rights. So if they want to fight over a particular body of land, basically you have two giant robots like from Pacific Rim, and they just beat the crap out of each other. But it's made on about a $10 budget.
It's a mid-90s full moon entertainment movie.
Oh man, it's great. It has Gary Graham. Oh, it's so amazing.
Yeah.
I'm gonna kick your ass. Yeah, did you say Gary Graham? I think I'm sure the crowd will correct me if I'm wrong. I think it's the first live action mech movie. I think
it's
that's
one
the distinction is it was the first. If it wasn't, it was
the first American for sure.
I would say American, probably Japanese. They'd probably done it by then. But yeah, as far
live
as
action. Okay, maybe. But my favorite thing about robot jocks, I'm so glad you mentioned
1989, ladies and gentlemen.
Thank you. My favorite thing about robot jocks is that there were people in the stands spectating during a mech warrior battle with live ammo. So like when the robot falls over, it falls into the crowd and kills people.
Yeah, there actually is a moment where one of them uses some kind of like leg sweep maneuver, and one of the robots falls back into the stands, and people want to be in the stands. And again, just imagine somebody playing with like their kids like Voltron toys. They're like, okay, make it fall over onto these little stands with little Q-tips built into them. And I mean, the special effects are terrible, but at the same time, they're kind of amazing.
They're gloriously bad.
Yes, like Charles Band, I think, is who produced that.
Charles Band.
It was Charles Band. Yeah. He just went for it, and that's what I love about Band movies, is that he always thought he was making Star Wars, and he always had like, I don't know, like the Air Bud budget. I mean, there was just no money there.
No, Airbud had like twice his budget.
Probably.
Yeah,
They had to train that dog at the very least.
Yeah, we could do a whole panel on Full Moon Entertainment. I would love to do that sometime because, the gods of the VHS era. And as our friend Ryan Schweck points out in the comments from the Execute Chapter 66 podcast, a very fine Star Wars podcast you should be watching. Look, if you told me I could watch mechs fight in real life, I'm taking the risk.
Yes, I mean, absolutely.
Yeah.
I get that as far as, okay, I want to go see them. But like literally, like it's like gladiatorial fighting. So imagine like there's like an amphitheater and the mechs are in the middle, but the amphitheater is so small compared to how big these robots are. I mean, the stands look like they're only like maybe 2-3 stories tall. So, maybe 30 rows of seating. And these mechs are easily 20 stories tall, maybe even taller than that.
They're gigantic,
they're huge. And it's amazing. It is absolutely amazing to watch. But Robot Jocks was one of those ideas I always thought if somebody legitimately came to it and like flesh that out, that could be like an interesting TV show of like these different like confederations and people fight.
Well, the closest we've gotten to it is what, Robot Wars, the one that was on BBC for a while, and then G4 I think took it over. The guy from Red Dwarf was the host.
Oh, you're talking about the one where they actually had the robots?
Yeah,
fighting?
they built little
Robot Wars.
So imagine that, but 60 feet tall.
And they all were like humanoid and stuff. And,
Speaking of fictional sports, if you look at the robots those real fighting robots people are making, like the Mythbusters guys participate in that every year and kick everybody's butt on the West Coast of the United States. But if you look at the rules and you look at those robots are small because the rules don't allow them to be any bigger than that. Those people would go full scale if you let them.
Yes.
And I think we should. I think maybe we should
totally let them
see what they can do. No rockets or no missiles, no 50 cals, but other than that, go crazy, guys.
I don't know if you guys remember, but about 10 years ago, the Sci-Fi Channel for one season had this amazing robot competition. And basically what they did is they had an engineer, and then they had an athlete, and then they had like a trainer, and everybody got a robot. They were just kind of assigned to it, and it was a robot fighting league, and I think that was actually what it was called. It's called like Robot Fighting League or something like that. Google it on Sci-Fi, and somebody put it in the comments. And so basically, they were these giant like animatronic robots. Somebody would get into a rig, and they would be able to like throw uppercuts and make it move around and stuff. And it was pretty wild. And they would go for 3 rounds, and it was insane. But it was so expensive. It only lasted for one season. But I tell you, I watched the hell out of that show. And I could not, I was like, I can't wait to see another season. And it never came back. But I mean, the only other thing I can think of that's remotely close to this would be like, you know what? A really modern parallel to Robot Jocks, since we're kind of like jumping all over the place as far as like robot like sports, would be what was it? Real Steel? Do you remember
Real Steel? Gerard Butler?
Real Steel. No, Hugh Jackman, wasn't it?
I think it was Hugh
Jackman. That's right. Sorry, it was Hugh Jackman. I'm sorry.
Yeah, except obviously those were human-sized robots, but that was basically the same kind of thing.
Yeah,
but
robot boxing.
Man. Oh, so great.
But there was an episode of Love, Death, and Robots, one of the early ones that was
one of the first,
like psychic link to alien creatures fighting blood sports.
Right. Yeah, that was a solid episode.
Yeah, it was amazing, especially if you haven't seen it, see it, because I don't want to give away the twist ending, because the twist ending is awesome.
Yeah. Well, honestly, Love, Death, and Robots is, it's an anthology show. Not all of them are winners, but most of them are.
Oh yeah, no, I recommend it very highly. Yeah. There's just not that many sports, just the one that I remember. So.
Yeah, but that does kind of. We seem to like having sports and competitions where we can safely dismantle and dismember each other, like in the Robot Jocks or in Real Steel. And there's a new movie I think on Paramount Plus about kaijus basically throwing down.
Oh yes, I've seen the previews for that. I haven't watched it yet though.
Yeah, it's like Monster Fighting League or something. But that looks pretty good. But it's definitely it's interesting how though we can use. There are the standard sports movies where it's like the agony of victory, the triumph of defeat, or whatever. You know how the saying goes.
Yeah.
And there, it seems to be one that sometimes makes a good gateway to look at social systems, which leads me to two of Darin's R-rated sports, Rollerball and Death Race, both of which are very political, especially the original. Not the remake is good, but the original with David Carradine
Yeah.
is very political.
Oh,
So
yeah.
what are your
yeah.
thoughts on that, Darin? Since you're the R-rated sports guy.
I just want to let the folks know I'm the R-rated sports guy.
Yeah.
Okay, you and Joe are taking that and going too far.
It's what we do, baby. It's what we do.
I posted a note saying, "Hey, are you guys okay if we do R-rated sports?" And Joe and Gary both went to the same incorrect version of R-rated. I meant the other version of R-rated where there's death and
Violence.
guts and gore, violent R-rated, not the
Right.
other kids listening. So yes, I recently acquired and watched the Jason Statham remake of Death Race. I found out later they're making a fifth one or something crazy like that. But this Death Race, which is only about 13, 14 years old now, was also made by Roger Corman, who made Death Race 2000 with "I Would Fly." And I was amazed, first of all, how I thought it was a sport, but it's really only a sport in like a technical sense. It's
car racing, but with casualties.
Yeah,
Right.
but it's the Romans and the Christians and the lions. It's the people who are racing are forced to race.
Mhm.
And the real bad guys are the people in charge of the prison in which they are prisoners and they're forced to race. I got 2/3 of the way through the movie and I turned to my wife and I went, I care what happens to these characters in a Roger Corman movie? What? Jason Statham is great. There's some really funny dialogue and some good secondary characters. The racing stuff is
Ian McShane's in it, right?
Ian McShane as the crew chief, basically. They call him coach. Ian McShane. I was like, Ian McShane's in this movie. He was amazing. He did a great job. There were I was afraid that we were going to get like 90 minutes of shaky cam where like the camera's constantly going, but the cinematography was just amazing considering it was, race cars shooting cannons and rockets. So yeah, I would recommend this movie to people that can handle the premise at all. It's really well done, and Jason Statham gets to kick people's butt, which is always fun to watch. But the point of the game, the point of the sport essentially is that you get to build this car and you get to have machine guns and rockets and flamethrowers and caltrops, but nothing somehow magically, right? A wizard did it. Somehow magically the cars don't work until you drive over the little things that activate the mechanisms that fire the guns. Right. They're power-ups. So you drive over the little manhole cover that lights up and you get to shoot your guns at that point. And I'm sitting there going, what? Doesn't make any sense, except in Mario Kart. Makes no sense at all. But thank you, Ryan, for mentioning Mario Kart.
No, I mean, it's definitely murder Mario Kart.
It's definitely a video game. It's total video game logic.
Oh, yeah. All the way down to the fact that depending on what act of the movie you're in, the rules are a little different. And I don't mean that the warden changes the rules, which is part of the story of the real bad guy, but like the physics and the rules and the way reality works shift, which is very Roger Corman. That part was recognizable. But yeah, I was sitting there watching this thing going, oh my God, I like this movie and I like these characters.
Well, as Kevin Cafferty points out in the comments, it makes emotional sense. It logically, no, but emotionally, of course, you have to drive over the power up to get the power up. I mean, what else?
I mean, otherwise, it's basically just like a monster, car rally, right? I mean, with
why don't they just start shooting? And
right
go and just start shooting.
Yeah, so you have to have some kind of gimmick that allows you to, get that extra bump. But that's the fun part. I mean, let's be fair. Roger Corman is a lot of things, and one of the great things he's a great. No, I'm serious. Like Roger Corman, he makes a lot of movies. They're not all great. He loves to just throw a little bit of too much sex and violence into things because he knows titillation will get people to show up. But he also has a really good eye for a gimmick. And if you could throw a good gimmick or a good movie poster at him, he'll greenlight you if you can bring it in on budget. You know, he'll give you $14 and like, you know, some egg cartons, but if you can make it look good, boom, yeah, exactly. Battle Beyond the Stars. You know, he'll give you the shot.
The Star Wars thing is popular.
Right, you know, and that's what Corman does. And sometimes Corman has these great moments that then become utter brilliance. And Death Race is one of those ideas that absolutely works. You know, and let's be fair, Charles Band wishes he was Roger Corman. Right?
Oh, yeah.
I mean, Roger Corman actually was successful at making huge amounts of money off of like actual blockbusters. And I don't think Roger Band ever had that level of success.
No.
So when you look at Robot Jocks, you're like, he wishes it was Death Race, you know? So I mean, you got to give Corman a lot of credit there.
Yeah. And going back to the original, I remember after it came out as a kid, and is still to this day a running joke, especially amongst the nerd set and my friends of, oh, there's a kid, that's 50 points. Oh, there's an elite, there's 100 points. You know, because part of the original is running over pedestrians gets you your point score.
Yeah. That was pretty frightening, dystopian game show kind of stuff. That was just crazy.
The one that stuck out with me was the hospital putting the elderly and disabled patients out on the street to be run over because they were worth so many points, and to show that Frankenstein is David Carradine's lead character is a good man. He runs over the nurses and the doctors. He swerves and hits them instead of
of course. Because when is murdering healthcare professionals not being the good guy?
Yeah. Well, I mean, he didn't run over the elderly and the sick.
Right. It's very nice of him. Very nice.
You know, they were fully mobile. They were outside on their own volition versus the people who were just pushed out into the street.
Oh, yeah.
It's a little different.
That's why kids are worth more. They're nimble.
But, you know, it's funny. Whenever you mention that, and I know it started with Corman, but whenever I think of they're worth this many points, I always go back to Toxic Avenger. And the drunken, you know, frat boys and their girlfriends that are just running around. They got the stamp that they actually put on the car. Oh, which one is it? Oh, this one's a kid. They actually stamp a kid on the side of their car. And I'm like, you're just literally giving the cops evidence here. Like, it's just so ridiculous. But,
and Sarah in the comments says, my friends and I would joke that you got extra points if you could wear the outfits of the people you ran over.
That's good.
But before we get off of Death Race, I want to say very quickly, because I can't believe that I'm going to go watch this movie again. It blows my mind still. It's so amazing. But my favorite part of the movie is actually in the credits, where before they roll the credits, there's this gigantic paragraph that says, these are professional stunt drivers on a closed course. This is not real. Do not do this. Credits. And my wife said, oh yeah, don't they put that in the movie credits all the time? And I went,
nope.
Not right there.
That's the only one I can think of. So I'm just thinking to myself, like, what was going on in their heads that they felt like they needed to explain that to the people watching this movie? That it wasn't real and people should not drive like this.
Hey, people are dumb. I mean, I knew I needed to take a break from playing GTA 4 or 5 for a little while when I was driving to work and started to swerve around a guy because they were stopped for the stoplight. And I was literally halfway into the swerve. I went, right, real life, not video game. Real life. Bring it back.
Yeah, don't do that. Oh, it's only one cop. It's a 1-star. I'm not going to pull over. No, pull over, Gary. Okay, like just pull over. Don't get to 5 stars. Okay, don't do it. But, you know, thinking about like R-rated fictional sports, one that I've run across in the last couple of years is this sport. It's apparently popular. So the setting is that it's popular all over the world except for in America, and we don't like it. And they bring one of the Americans over to coach a team. And the name of the show is Ted Lasso, and the sport is called soccer. I've never heard of it before. They call it football. But if you've never seen Ted Lasso, it is absolutely amazing. They got this foul-mouthed guy on there who's always cursing at people. And quite frankly, the idea behind the soccer/football. It's very weird. I don't understand the rules. It looks like it's a mix between basketball and hockey. And I don't understand like how like the teams are put together and whatnot. But if you watch it, you really get a feel that people could enjoy this. And it's far more interesting than say Quidditch, which again is another fake British sport. So I really think that the soccer thing could take off in a much bigger way than say trying to go and find like the snitch. But if you haven't seen Ted Lasso, I think it's absolutely amazing. There's lots of great cursing in it as well. So
okay, so according to the rules of this sport that we're doing right here, the three of us, I am now allowed to have 8 more minutes of Quidditch talk, Shaun.
No, not at all. No, okay, but seriously, okay, but no, I'm sorry. I just I had to do it because honestly, Ted Lasso is amazing. I love Ted Lasso, so if you can give a shout out to it. But no, speaking of R-rated games, and I loved watching this as a kid, and as an adult, I'm horrified at the idea behind it, and it does line right up with a Death Race, and that would be The Running Man.
Yes.
But that technically is a game show.
Yeah, but they also call it a sport. They call
okay.
They do. They actually call it a sport. They call it sport entertainment, and it's like that WWE kind of thing, And it's definitely a game show for the people watching it and betting on the gladiators. But they consider it a sport. They consider it a sport.
It's as much of a sport as wrestling.
Yeah, I mean, you can gamble on it. They have contestants, they have competitions. I mean, it's a sport. It's as much of a sport as Death Race is when you're taking people out of a penitentiary and throwing them into a car.
So let's go Running Man then. You guys have convinced me. And besides, I wanted to talk about it anyway.
Right?
Isn't it based on a Stephen King novella?
Yes.
Yeah, it's based on a Stephen King novella with when he was writing as Richard Bachman.
One of the Richard Bachman
and again,
stories.
talking about using sports as politics,
the metaphor.
The metaphor. The novella is grim and dark and a lot more hard-edged and realistic. It ends with the main character crashing a plane into the network building to bring everything to a head. Whereas, the Schwarzenegger movie is an Arnold Schwarzenegger movie from 1980s. It's what you're going to get.
Yeah. And for those who are interested, if you've never actually read the Running Man book, it is vastly different from the actual movie. The concept of the book is essentially they get all these people together, and they're all basically, for whatever reason, political exiles. They're political prisoners, or there's some kind of dissidence to the government, and it's this version of America.
But hold on a second. Let's back up a second. Part of the politics and part of the George Orwellness of this story/movie is that the first 10 minutes of the movie are Arnold Schwarzenegger's audition tape for Blue Thunder.
Yeah.
Well, no, I was talking about the book, but
you're talking about the book. Oh, I'm sorry.
I was talking about the book. No, I was talking about the book for a second. So, basically, the idea behind it is that it's called The Running Man, and the idea is that you basically start on one side of the country of America, and you have to continue walking.
You have to make it to the West Coast, I think.
To the West Coast, and if you stop for any reason, you get executed. And if you make it across the country,
you're mingling in the long walk.
No, I'm pretty sure the Running Man had
the Running Man he's on the run. Well, they're both very similar. The Running Man, you're on the run. There are people after you. There are bounty hunters. Whereas the long walk is a bunch of people start in Maine, and you have to walk a minimum of 4 miles an hour. And if you ever slow down, you get shot and killed. And the last one surviving is the winner.
Okay, so on the play. Shaun mixed his stories up.
Yeah,
I'm okay with that.
They're both in the same, but they're both in the same Bachman book collection, which is why it's easy to.
Okay, so I might be mixing my King metaphors here, but the idea is that it's about continuing to walk. It's not about just staying still. Whereas the freaking movie is just it's crazy. Basically, we're a capitalist society, but this particular version of capitalist America is much closer to red communist Russia. And anybody who steps out of line is just crushed. And if you're a political dissident or if you're remotely a criminal, boom, you get put on this game show. And if you could survive, 4 quadrants of
if you can make it a certain amount of time, you get to live.
Right.
Yeah. So can I go back to the movie now, Shaun?
Yeah, we're back to the movie.
Okay.
Now we're good.
All right, good. So Schwarzenegger starts off the movie being ordered to murder a bunch of people, and he's like,
Right.
they're just innocent, they're just hungry, innocent people. Yeah, I'm not going to do it. So they frame him for a massacre, mass
Right.
murder of these innocent, starving people who are protesting, and then they turn him into this violent, terrible person that everybody hates, and they put him in the Running Man game. So it isn't just this bizarre sport gladiatorial silliness, but also they use the game to manipulate politics and popular opinion and all this other stuff. So the first what 10-15 minutes of the movie just make me want to spit. I'm just so angry at these people for what they're doing. But
Right.
20 minutes later, Schwarzenegger's running through this gauntlet killing people, so I forget about that part.
Yeah. Yeah, well, I mean, it's not like anyone would use tainted footage and amped up misleading information to goad people into an emotional reaction and forget about the real world oppression that's going on by distracting them with a funny game show and what reality people are doing. Yeah,
I mean,
the satire is strong.
Yeah. And when I watched it as a kid, I always loved the Running Man segments. But when I watch it as an adult, one of the things that always stands out to me is Schwarzenegger very clearly says right at the top, he goes, there's a food riot in progress. And I never got that as a kid. I was like, oh, food riot, whatever does that mean? Then I realized people are starving in the streets and all they're trying to do is get food. And they tell him flat out, execute them all, just shoot them dead.
Yeah.
And he's like, there's no way I'm going to do this. And nobody else in his freezing helicopter, nobody in his company is on his side on this. They're like, no, you need to kill all these innocent people. There are women and children and just, hungry people down there, So one of the great things about that era of movies is, of course, Schwarzenegger is the unkillable, stopping, you can't kill him Terminator. So you get, Richard Dawson versus the Terminator, and that fight is going to only go one way. And Richard Dawson is just done.
Yeah, so Sarah brought up Richard Dawson in the chat a couple of minutes ago, and I wanted to say that part of the satire of this movie, and it's a little meta, is that we all knew Richard Dawson as the Family Feud guy, and he was just so wholesome, and he was just like America's favorite game show host at that point in his career. And they specifically tagged him and said, Richard, we want you to completely break typecast. We want you to shock everybody into watching this movie. We will pay you a ton of money to just be the opposite of yourself, but still be a game show host. And he got fired from Family Feud for doing this movie.
Yeah.
Because he dropped the F-bomb behind the scenes, off camera, inside the movie, and the Family Feud people went, and they lost their minds, and they fired him.
Yeah.
That's crazy. But
it's also the only...
Oh, go ahead. Gary. No, please.
No, it's also the only time anyone was able to snap back successfully on one of Schwarzenegger's one-liners, because he drops the "I'll be back," and Dawson goes, "Yeah, only in the reruns."
Oh yes,
yeah,
absolutely. But that was the great part about that dynamic, is that I think Dawson made the right choice in the long run, because we still know when we think of Family Feud, we associate two people with Family Feud, right? We got Harvey and we got Richard Dawson. And Richard Dawson came first. So that's it. I mean, that's it. We have two eras of the feud. Anybody else who's ever tried to host the feud, get out of here. We don't care about you. Know, and Dawson is like the OG. And the great part about that is, again, he was like, he was, especially in the 80s, he was like a Pat Sajak character. He was just beloved by everybody.
Yeah.
So to see him turn heel, turn villain, and he did it so well. I mean, like,
he is dining on that movie.
It's so great. And from what I understand, I've never heard an unkind word said about Richard Dawson in real life. Like, nobody's ever said anything like crappy about him. Like, oh no, he's much more like his character in The Running Man. Like, I've always heard he's like the sweetest guy. He's always, up for like talking to people and whatnot. Like, super sweet dude. So for him to go this arch and to just sell it, me as a kid, I was like, Richard Dawson is the face of evil. So I get why he got fired from the feud after that, because there was a few years where I'm like, this dude tried to kill Schwarzenegger and he's kissing grandmas on the feud. This isn't right.
Yeah.
So, I mean, but he was amazing as that character. I mean, absolutely amazing. And honestly, feud needed to have a little bit more steel stones and stick by their guy. But Dawson, man, just perfection.
Yeah,
Oh,
he really was.
I'm getting
perfect for the
an
role.
I'm getting an update from Classic Track Sports Health Labs. Apparently, Joe was starting to recover, but apparently he pinched his Murphy gland, and so they're having to re-ice him. Unfortunately for the halftime show, we are actually going to have to cut to Peter Murphy and see what happens.
That's why you call it Murphy's Law. So there you go.
Exactly.
It's Murphy's Law.
Now, Tony Ann in the comments, we love you, Tony, asked if anyone on the panel actually participated in real sports.
Oh, I'm gonna kill both of you. Yes. Nerds can play sports too.
Not.
Thank you very much.
I did. I played football through like elementary school and in the middle school, junior high, and I got a cleat through my hand.
Oh.
And I draw at the time. I was an artist, and so that cleat went through the webbing in one of my fingers, and I couldn't use this hand for a while to draw. And I was like, I can't. Like, I'm an artist. There's no way. So that was it. I was done. But yeah, this guy, he somehow he was able to just get that cleat right in there, and ripped up the webbing, the whole bit. It wasn't great. So I was like,
So you used to be a football player, but you took an arrow to the knee.
I took a cleat to the fingers, but so, but not quite.
Right,
an arrow
what
to the
did
knee.
you? And what did you play, Darin?
I did 10 seasons of soccer. I was actually an official FIFA referee at the state level. When I was a lot younger. Yeah. So I played the other kind of football. How much what?
How many payoffs did you get? You were with FIFA.
I never made it up to the millions of dollars in bribery level of being a referee for FIFA. The people I was refereeing they didn't have anything to bribe me
corn
with.
dogs.
Okay. Did you get like free Gatorade at least? Like free Gatorade and Coke and stuff, and like
somehow there were a lot of orange slices. I'm not sure what that was about.
Okay, well there you go.
But yes.
All right. So before we move, I want to make sure we cover the one that's in the title. Even though it is technically a real sport, it's not a real sport to the level of people don't play it professionally that I'm aware of, and that's Dodgeball. Dodgeball is an incredibly funny movie. I would watch the Ocho all day, and I don't watch sports at all for enjoyment, but I would watch everything they listed on the Ocho.
Absolutely.
And
that the Ocho would be where like year-long curling
it's got some great moments. It's got Alan Tudyk. Yes. Ryan Schweck says it's on ESPN2. I don't know if he means Dodgeball or if he means the Ocho. But yes, and it's got some great, Rip Torrio. If you can dodge a wrench, you can dodge a ball.
Yep.
And it's solid performances from Ben Stiller. And I love it's a wonderfully goofy sports movie that sends up the traditional sports movie.
Oh, I love it. That movie is so much fun. The Globo Gym versus the Average Joes, and I mean, of course, you have the underdog take and whatnot, but I mean, Ben Stiller nobody makes me bleed my own blood.
Yes.
He encapsulates this idea of I am the most perfect human and I have my superhuman team of players with me. It is such a ridiculous idea of we're going to decide the fate of this gym through a dodgeball competition. I love it, and I loved all the gimmicks for all the different teams. And I really wish that the Average Joes would have stayed in all the gimp gear. I think that would have been a funnier gimmick than them going to the yellow and gold at the end of the movie. I think that if they actually had to continue in their S&M bondage gear through the whole competition, that would have been amazing.
Yeah. And always give it up for Gary Cole and Jason Bateman. It's become a standard part of my lexicon, in which led to this panel of it's a bold strategy, Cotton. Let's see how it plays out.
Yes. Yeah, I mean, seriously, great line.
I think that it's probably somewhere there's a website where they've listed all of the movies that really are better for the color commentary from the people sitting on the sideline. I'm thinking of Major League, where I forget the guy's name, I blanked on it, but the announcer made the movie. just a bit outside.
Still
You know,
outside. Yeah.
Just a little bit
Oh
outside.
God,
yeah,
what was his name? Someone in the.
Oh God, he was at Mr. Belvedere. So hold on, now I gotta go. Hold on,
he was an
Major
actual
League.
sports guy.
He was a
Yeah,
real
he was an
sports
actual
announcer.
sports guy. Bob
player
Uecker.
and announcer. Bob
Uecker.
Bob Uecker. There we
Bob
go.
Uecker.
Yeah, Uecker. There, Uecker. There
Thank
we
you,
go.
Lynn.
He really helped that movie work. And so so having Jason Bateman do color commentary for, like, I would watch him do. I would listen
and so
to Jason
obviously
Bateman.
Stoned.
Yes.
His character
What-
is stoned.
Yeah. But I would listen to Jason. I mean, I don't skip Jason Bateman's electric car ads.
Mhm.
Right. Let's be clear about this. I'm like, oh, it's Jason Bateman doing a voiceover. Well, we can wait for a second.
Right.
Mhm.
Yeah, I do that whenever I hear Ving Rhames talking on Arby's, and it's like, "You want the meat?" And I'm
We
like,
have
"I
the
don't,
meat."
but I want to listen to Ving Rhames do a commercial, so I'm here
Yep.
for it."
Yes.
You know, so oh God, can you imagine Ving Rhames doing like a fictional sport, like as an
Oh.
announcer? Oh, I would pay good money.
I'm in. I'm all in.
For that experience. Oh man. Okay, so one that I was thinking of, that I thought would be kind of fun to talk about for a moment, that is in the same line as Dodgeball, is, and please forgive me, it is such a stupid movie, but and there's a lot of stuff that doesn't age really well, even though it's only about 23 years old. It's called Basketball. Have I?
Yes. That was on my list.
From the brilliant minds behind South Park.
Oh my God,
really love that movie.
I love
it's so
that
stupid.
movie. Yes,
It's so funny. Well, okay, you talk about political commentary hidden
Yes.
in stupid movies about sports. Parker and Stone are the best at hiding the political commentary underneath something silly.
Mhm.
So every time they want to do a transition within the movie, you get to see the ridiculously scantily clad, inappropriately dressed cheerleaders.
right.
Right. And so when you look at that movie and you go, oh, those cheerleaders are inappropriately dressed. And then you look at the NFL cheerleaders, you go, not that far different. There's not anymore. I mean, when I was a kid, they were kind of even when I was a kid, they weren't appropriately dressed. So the basketball cheerleaders are to me my favorite little sneaky commentary on reality from that movie.
Absolutely, but I love the fact that the only reason it becomes popular is because of the fact that these guys are trying to just take out some pharma bros who are trying to show them up at at a party, and they're like, you know what, we're gonna play this new game. It's a street game. It's called Basketball. It's horse, but it's got baseball rules. So they just make it up all on the spot. And Parker and Stone are so great at delivering these lines. The movie is not great. I'm telling you right now. The movie's funny. It is legitimately funny, but it's funny. Not high comedy. It is
it's
low-brow,
very
funny.
It's a little
base, shall we say?
Yes.
Yeah,
and I'm okay with
that. But also one of the key tenets of the game is taunting.
Yes.
Like
the
taunting
psych
is a requirement. The psych out. So it's not just that the audience is going, you're terrible, whatever. It's that the players are doing it too, trying to throw people off, and it becomes part of the strategy of the game.
Yes, absolutely.
Is tricking the other team into thinking that you're no good at it, and then when you really need to psych them out, you really hit them with something serious.
Mm-hmm.
Like these people were like, they knew stuff about each other's families. Like it got really dirty and really funny in the way that they fought like that. But also, Shaun, the reality of this is you can play basketball in your driveway, and I have, and it's awesome.
Absolutely,
it really actually is a good game.
It is actually a lot of fun to play. It's one of those games that you can play with your friends and you can have fun with it, and you can actually recreate a basketball game if you wanted to. Just like Dodgeball, you can actually get your friends together and you can do this thing and you can have fun with it, and it's just a good time, and it's silly. And I was like, man, basketball was such a there are these moments in the movie itself where it goes a little too far for me, like on a time where the Bears lose, right? So they're trying to show that Stone and Parker are feeling really bad. Then the fans start pelting them with eggs, oh, what a terrible time to lose in your home field on open range egg night. It's one step too far into the ludicrous for me, but it never goes that many times to that well for me, where it negates all the really good, fun craziness of them inventing the sport, how crazy the idea behind this thing is, the fun of the game, and then some of those psych outs are absolutely crazy. One of my favorite ones are so simple, where the guy takes a piece of tinfoil, he just starts chewing on it, and anybody who has a metal filling knows, and they're just like, no, and you just don't do that. You don't you don't chew on tinfoil, but if you don't have a metal filling, doesn't do a dang thing to you. And I love that was a great psych out, and things like that. I just love those ideas. But basketball is absolutely hilarious. Cannot recommend it highly enough. But again, there is problematic humor in it, so there is an asterisk next to basketball there. So
yes,
that we could say that for anything that's not been made, basically in the last like 5 or 6 years.
Yep. And Tony Ann, going back to her, has a question for the panel of what's your favorite Star Trek sport? And my favorite fake Star Trek sport is probably the one from the original series where they're bouncing around on the trampoline and doing judo. I know it has a legit name, and I can't think of it off the top of my head.
Wasn't that Parisi Squares?
Maybe.
I think that was supposed to be Parisi Squares, wasn't it?
Is that what that was supposed to be? Because I don't remember them ever showing Parisi Squares, but maybe I'm just not.
I always thought Parisi Squares was a reference to that original episode from the original series. I thought that was like, I always thought that's what Parisi Squares was. Maybe I'm wrong. I don't know. Well, I thought that's what it was. But
we're going to Memory Alpha, your host of all things Star Trek, and
yeah, let's find out.
It appeared in
because they talk about it all the damn time. And how you can break your arm and all that stuff.
Yeah, it was in TNG.
Okay, so it never. So the original series
so it's not.
With all the. Okay, so there we go.
The original series had the one where Kirk's running around, jumping around on a trampoline. The one with Charlie X, but I don't know if that actually had a name. It might have just been weird might have been just weird space calisthenics. But
well, I thought in the original series the big sport there was drinking in bars.
No. I think by far the absolute best game ever invented in Star Trek that we got to see multiple times would be Spring Ball through the 7 years of Deep Space Nine. There are multiple episodes where Spring Ball shows up, and Spring Ball continues to show up. And one of the early episodes where you start to see the friendship between Bashir and O'Brien is that O'Brien has made himself a Spring Ball court. And he is like, this is going to be my court where I can play. And Bashir's like, ooh, I found out somebody made a Spring Ball court and I wanted to try it out. And basically he's just egging, O'Brien on. And O'Brien's just so pissed off. And if you've not watched that episode, it's freaking hilarious to watch this. But that particular sport comes back over and over again. I think it has 3 or 4 appearances over the 7 seasons of Deep Space Nine. And it's one of the more consistent sports that they show on it. That's not just the holodeck.
But I love that fake sport became a huge plot device for Bashir and his illegal enhancements and everything.
Yes.
And O'Brien O'Brien's not dumb. He just isn't the same kind of. He's not the same kind of brilliant that some of the other characters in Star Trek are. But he's a really smart guy, and he's sitting there going, "You are letting me win.
Yes.
Why are you faking being not as good at this as you are?" And Bashir's like, "I can't tell you." And then it became a whole episode.
Yeah, there's all sorts of
that
stuff
one little bit. Yeah. So it was a brilliant move.
But of course, by the time that they finally figure out that Bashir is genetically enhanced, they moved on to darts. And at that point, then they have to make Bashir shoot from like halfway across Quarks, because if he's any closer, it's not fair, which I always thought was hilarious. So they have these long going gags where Bashir's standing all the way by like Morn and he's throwing a dart halfway across the bar because they won't let him get any closer. But what was the other one that they played with the phasers, and they had to hit the it was almost like they were playing skeet. It was like phaser skeet or something.
I mean, it was phaser training. They were skeet shooting. And I think my favorite view of that was when Guinan came in and she's carrying a phaser, and he's like, "You're doing phaser training?" She's like, "Yeah, like, I like to keep in practice." And she totally paced the walls with him.
Oh, absolutely.
He hits every target, and you're just sitting there going, "Guinan's a really good shot. Okay, that's interesting." So
and that one actually came back a couple times, because I remember that happening in Voyager. Because if I remember correctly, that was one of the sports that Janeway started to use to get Seven to integrate into the crew, because Seven was like, "I'm not going to take recreational time." And she was like, "Well, this isn't recreational time. This is honing your combat edge." And then they would have conversations while they were firing phasers and stuff. And Janeway would start like having, like more personal conversations, and Seven would get pissed off and her useless emotions would show up. I mean, to be fair, that was actually probably one of the better uses of, let's use a social sports setting to actually, engage character growth. And I think when you look at things like, how they use spring ball to kind of move certain character points along, you can see that as, they started to think about these sports, they found really interesting ways of getting cool character moments in that actually move, character development along.
Because how many times did O'Brien get in trouble with somebody, either the doctor or his wife, for having gone kayaking by himself on the holodeck again?
Oh, absolutely.
Mm-hmm. And throwing out his shoulder and
throwing his shoulder and everything. The old sports injury in Star Trek DS9.
Mm-hmm.
I always wanted them to do a bit where O'Brien's kayak, the white water and everything and rocks come into the hallway long enough to then dematerialize, because they're just photons. But I always wanted him to like ride the kayak into the hallway and go, just on screen once.
That would have actually been really cool to see. I would have loved to have seen that.
That would have been very cool.
Absolutely.
And apparently,
for those of you who don't know, go ahead, Gary.
I was like, apparently the phaser shooting game is just the phaser shooting game. It appeared in A Matter of Honor, and Picard and Riker were basically practicing their shooting skills while discussing Riker's interest in the exchange program with the Klingons.
Nice.
Yeah.
So the phaser shooting game. But hey, let's move away from Star Trek for a second. There was one other sport that I wanted to talk about, and it doesn't have a name. But if you're a kid of the 80s, you probably watched this movie a number of times. It basically is a mix of rollerblading and yahalai. And it was in a movie called Solar Babies.
Yes.
You guys remember this? You guys remember Solar Babies?
Oh, wow. It's been forever.
Oh my gosh. I remember Solar Babies so hard. And I was like, what a weird name for a movie. But if you've never seen it, the idea is that it's essentially, it's almost like roller derby, except it also has an aspect of yahalai in it. And the idea is that they basically get teenagers and kids who are about to become adults, and they put them all in these teams, and the teams have to fight each other. And what the DL is that there are these basically, monolithic government organizations that are training these kids to see each other as the opposition. So that way they're going to be more trainable. So that way they can be sent out to war and kill each other. So there's these group of kids who run across an orb, because of course it has to be some kind of ball that can be used in the game. And it actually has, sentience. It's an alien being. And what was it called? I think it was called Bodhi. I remember it was named after the same character as what's his name in Point Break?
Bodhi.
Freaking Bodhi. I think was the name of it. Yeah, Patrick Swayze. Thank you. And I always think of it whenever I think of the name of that particular alien. I go, it's Patrick Swayze as an orb. And so I always imagine like Patrick Swayze's like in their head talking to them and whatnot. But if you've never seen it, it is a wild looking game, rough as hell. And again, something that I think you could actually do in real life with the proper protective gear. And I always kind of like those fictional games where they have a little bit of realism to them, where you could probably play it. But it would probably jack you up too. But I don't know, like Gary, were you a fan of Solar Babies, or was it one of those that you just?
I was a child of the 80s. Of course, it was a ball. It's a wild, and again, another one where they're smuggling in that satire and the political statement. Because sports makes for a good metaphor about teams and your side versus my side and control. Right. And but yeah, I mean, it's a ball of a movie, and as Sarah in a comment says, Lucas Haas in his heyday.
Oh, absolutely, yeah. Yep. I think Lucas Haas. I think he played the deaf kid. I think in that one. I think so. Yeah. There was a lot of people in there. I always remember that. What's her name? She's got the Southern twang. She was in Twister. She was going to marry Bill Paxton in that movie. I forget.
Oh, yeah.
But so she was in that. I remember her being in that. There were a lot of 80, they were not the Brat Pack, but they were the almost Brat Pack. They were like the team B. They were like the B team of the Brat Pack.
You're talking about Helen Hunt, right?
No.
The other one,
brunette.
the dark-haired girl. The one who was going to marry Bill Paxton and then decides, this tornado.
Give me a second. Now I got to go to Solar Babies. Jamie Gertz, that was her name.
Thank you.
Oh yeah, Jamie. Right.
Yeah, Jamie Gertz. So this is the list of the people who are in Solar Babies. So you have Jason Patric, who from Lost Boys fame. How can you go wrong with Jason Patric? Jamie Gertz. You have Lucas Haas, which was the kid who was deaf who could talk to Bodhi. You had Peter DeLuise, who That guy's had like a great freaking career. James LaGrosse, Claude Brooks, and then you would have as like the kind of like the big overarching bad guy was Charles Durning as the Warden. But yeah, I love Solar Babies. It was that was a great little movie. It's got like an ecological bent to it as well, and it's a very cool flick if you've never had a chance to see it.
Yeah, and the last one I wanted to make sure that we covered that is one of my favorites is a Rutger Hauer movie from the 80s, post-apocalypse, called Blood of Heroes, where basically it's a team sport, but it's post-apocalypse, so you have amateur teams which go from town to town and they'll fight. You know, they roll into like, you know, Nowhereville and they fight the local team. And so, you know, and if they win, they get paid and they get food and all this, and then they roll on to the next town. And it's kind of like football mixed with rugby, and you with less rules, and the ball is like a dog skull because that's all you can find. And Rutger Hauer is he used to be in the political elite. Now he's out doing this, just trying to survive. And he gets dragged back into the political machinations and into the professional, the game is called, I think, Juggers, and gets dragged into it. And it's a good, again, the political stuff, the action stuff is good. Rutger Hauer in the 80s is a god. And again, it makes a good, fascinating team sport. And I love the fact that when they get to the professional level of the actual Jugger players, they're still using a dog skull.
Well, I mean, you know, you got to go with your branding. I mean, that's just how that is. So you always want to make sure that you keep your branding on point. And if you got a dog skull, you keep a dog skull. Even though I always thought a jaguar skull would be cooler, you know, because then like you got like some pointy ear teeth and whatnot. But I got overruled. I was a child when the movie came out. Nobody's going to listen to me. So whatever. All
right. And so to wrap this up, Darin, what's your last pick?
Well, I wanted to point out this. I'm kind of cheating here, or maybe subverting, but in one of the Hitchhiker's Guide to the Galaxy novels, the game of cricket isn't a game. It is a social cultural representation in the subconscious of every species of this group of people from the planet Cricket who built all this technology that just happens to involve bats, balls, and wickets in order to destroy every living thing in the galaxy. And he totally sells it and uses the weirdness of the real game of cricket to make this joke about how it's this alien thing that happened thousands of years ago. Totally sells it. It's just great watching people play cricket and thinking about the genocidal aliens from the planet Cricket. So that's a good one for me to end on.
I love it.
Good one.
Yeah,
I think that's fun. Yeah, and I think that's it. Yeah, I don't know. Actually,
and getting the final update on Joe. Apparently, he's crossed his coccyx into his cloaca, and is going to be sent home for the rest of the evening.
Oh, poor guy. Poor guy.
We wish him well.
We wish him well. R.I.P. cloaca.
Yes. Yeah. So. Do not Google. Yeah. Safe. Do not image search unless you're on safe search. Cloaca or blue waffles.
Right. Right. But one to go out on, though, because it's technically not a sport, but at the same time, we can count it as one if we want to. Basically, all the games in Tron.
Yeah, true.
All of them. They're all awesome. I don't care if you're doing Light Cycle. I don't care if you're doing the Yahalai. I don't care if you're doing the Smasher. All of it. All the Tron sports. Oh, man, they're all awesome.
But they're not technically blood sports. They're technically pixel sports.
True.
Well, in that case, I would also highly suggest Mutant League Football from the Sega the Sega Genesis. Amazing game. Okay, hold on. As we're going out on this, Gary, feel free to go ahead and just get rid of me whenever you want to. But I'm telling you, if you've never played Mutant League Football, you could literally bribe the ref. You could bribe the ref, and the ref would put a bomb on the football, and then you basically would allow it to get intercepted, and you could blow up your opposition. It was amazing. I've always wanted them to do a modern version of Mutant League Football and like just let you go completely nuts. Mutant League Football, absolutely amazing. If you've never played it, go find an emulator, play the hell out of that game, bribe the ref every time. You will always win.
Yes.
There you go.
All right, so wrapping up, we're gonna head to the showers here, and so Shaun, tell people about yourself and where they can find you.
Sure.
And where they can buy your stuff.
Well, interestingly enough, actually, my wife Laura and I, we run a booth called Pop Cycle Bobbles. We travel around the country from time to time, and we actually have a place we're going to this weekend for Captain's Comics Expo. It actually will be here in Charleston, South Carolina, and it'll be going on this Saturday and Sunday. So if you are in the Charleston area or can come down and visit it, you should come check out the Captain Comic Expo. We make a bunch of awesome geeky merchandise, all kinds of things. We make things like hair scrunchies and pixel art, all kinds of fun stuff. And we also have these really great kits now that you can make of my older designs and make my older designs that are no longer being made, and you can make them yourself. You can, of course, find us online at facebook.com/popcycled, or you can also find us on all the interwebs with Popcycled. And of course, I am at Numa Z. So thank you guys so much. It's awesome talking about this. And again, Quidditch, screw you, Quidditch.
And Darin, your good buddy Ralph behind you.
It's not like you wrote the game,
Ralph
Darin.
Yeah, Ralph has been very polite this whole time.
Very polite. He and Shaun will have words later. I'm Darin M. Bush. You can find my short stories on my author page on the Amazon. I've got about half a dozen stories ready for the Kindle. I'm also going to be appearing in Atlanta at JordanCon in April, and Monsterama in October, and Conjuration in November, where if you would like to make fun of people playing Quidditch or trying to play Quidditch, that is the place to come. We'll try and get Shaun to come and be a bludger. I'm down for that.
I am totally down for Shaun coming down and being the bludger and not telling anybody till we release him on the field.
And just release the bludger, and I'm just going to go blitz it across the...
And I might also find you at Dragon Con.
There's that little thing in September.
We'll be there too.
Yeah.
Yep.
Him Con.
Yep.
Yes. Yep. And as you know, I am on the Twitters here. You can find me making fun of people there and blocking others. And you can find me here every other Thursday as Joe and I do this once Joe recovers from his cloaca corruption. And so look for us here in 2 weeks, where at least Shaun will be joining us as we revive Battle of the Fictional Bands, Power Chords. Previous winners of the Battle of the Fictional Bands are disqualified from entry.
Thank God. No more electric freaking mayhem.
Yes. It also sadly means no Soggy Bottom Boys, which makes me sad. But fair is fair.
You're right. But I don't think Wild Stallions ever made it into they never finaled.
They never won, so they can come back into it.
Wild Stallions!
So come back in 2 weeks when you'll hear Shaun say,
well, even though it's called a cloaca, sometimes you can also find it near your neurothorax.
Thank you, everybody. Tony Ann, yes, we will see you there. And I don't have the power to turn this thing off, so.
And justice for Wild Stallions.
Justice for Wild Stallions.
I didn't realize I didn't know you were going to toss to me, so I was like, I would have come up with something funnier.
So let me see if I got this right, Gary. You are held hostage by Shaun and I?
Yeah.
For now.
Live?
Live. Hopefully Joe is somewhere in the background. Remember?
No. I hope that Joe just lets us go for a little while now, and we're just gonna we're off script. There's nothing to talk about. It's just us three. Forget the audience.
Okay, so Gary, let's do this. We'll edit this out in post. Ask me again if I have any final words.
Post? Okay, all right, Darin. What are your final words?
So I came here today to panel, and I feel like we came and we presented, and Shaun and Gary and I, we were in the game. We had our heads in the game. We were playing, and the referee, he made some bad calls there, and Joe was sidelined early with an injury, but we didn't let it get us down. Our spirit was up. We were feeling that 110%. We got good comments from the live audience. They were supportive. This is the home field. This is our people backing us. And we were here. We came to panel, and I think we paneled. I think in 2 weeks when we go to the semifinals, I think we're going to panel then too.
I think we are too. I agree. I agree with my colleague, Mr. Bush. I think it's absolutely correct on this. I think it's going to be good. I think it's going to be a triumph and a rally. And there's no I in team, but there's me in team. But there's still an A and a T at the end of that. I'm not really sure I'm going with this metaphor, but the Replacements was an awesome fictional football movie, and that honestly was something I wanted to talk about tonight because I love Keanu Reeves as a freaking quarterback. Oh God, I love The Replacements. I'm not a huge sports person anymore, but man, The Replacements is just so good. If you've never seen it, go watch The Replacements. Oh,
I mean, if you want to talk about sports movies about actual sports, there are some pretty decent ones out there. I like Major League, which we mentioned earlier.
Major League's amazing.
It's very funny. It's very good.
It's so good. Oh man,
Unnecessary Roughness.
Oh yes, unnecessary roughness. Scott Bakula.
Yeah,
rolling up as a 40-year-old red shirt quarterback. So
yeah,
but also just so great.
Don't forget, guys. The guy, the defensive lineman with anger issues is now one of the executive producers of The Mandalorian and the Book of Boba Fett.
Yes,
that's
he is.
True. That's
true. From The Replacements. Yes, that's right. Yeah,
Jon Favreau.
I love that Jon Favreau's backstory in The Replacements was that he had served 2 tours in the Iraq War, and then they dishonorably discharged him for being too violent for the Corps, and he snuck his way back in for another tour. That's his actual legitimate backstory in The Replacements, is that he snuck his way back in to go back overseas. And I'm just like, no. Like, what? How do you sneak back into the military? Like, nobody's going to notice if I just salute a lot.
Does anybody want to text Joe and tell him to get out of his hospital bed?
Just let it go.
No, leave it on. We're just going to stay.
Let's see how long before Joe realizes that we're just here.
Yeah, I think he's around there somewhere because I saw a few near the end. He popped up. There were some comments that popped up on the screen, which that would have had to have been him.
It might have been, but no. Mighty Ducks was awesome.
Yes.
Somebody mentioned the Mighty Ducks, which is great.
Yeah.
Another one. Now, it's technically not a sports movie, but if anybody's never seen this, it's actually a really great coming of age movie about a kid who basically is pushing against everybody telling him he has to be fat and stupid. It's a movie called Angus.
Oh, yes.
If you've never seen Angus, it's got Kathy Bates in it. It's got what's his name from The Changeling. Great freak. Oh man, now I gotta go look up the movie because I can't believe I just forgot his damn name like an idiot.
You're not talking about George C. Scott.
George C. Scott.
Wow.
Plays his grandfather. He is awesome in this.
Excellent.
And basically Angus is this incredibly smart kid, but he just happens to be a giant and he's fat and he's nervous. And he's the same approximate age as the little girl from Jurassic Park, so they're both like hitting their like 15-year-old, 16-year-old age. And on a dare, Dawson from Dawson's Creek basically says, oh, well, you can take her to the prom. And they're going to try to embarrass him a la Carrie. And it's a wonderful movie. But one of the subplots is that Angus, while also being smart, is basically a Terminator in football. So he continually just crushes the opposition. And I love that freaking movie. If you've never seen it, wonderful, wonderful, wonderful flick. You can't go wrong with that. And that was good.
And of course, then there's the if you build it, it will come.
Oh yeah, Field of Dreams. What up? Yeah, I love that everybody's like throwing out. Rookie of the Year is amazing. I love that little kid with the freaking arm that was too tight. That was great.
Okay, so we're talking about fictional real sports.
Yes.
I this is slightly off topic, but it's worth mentioning.
Oh, we're off in the weeds now.
The sports writer. What was the sports writer's name? Was it George Plimpton? Wasn't he a sports writer?
I think so.
So about 30-something years ago, for the March 31st Sports Illustrated, they had like a 6-page spread on this prodigy baseball player who could throw a baseball 125 miles an hour. And they had this whole huge thing about how he was going to come in and which team was he playing for? They had photos, they had agent reports, everything. It was an April Fool's joke.
Oh.
The whole thing, it was a huge April Fool's joke, and it was done by one of the most well-known sports writers at the time. And they had this huge, lanky, weird-looking guy who, like, they had him in uniforms, and they had pictures of him pitching baseballs. It's just great. It was just a great game.
Didn't they adapt that into an actual movie with Brendan Fraser? Was it The Natural? Didn't they adapt that? Because
there was one with Brendan Fraser. I'm thinking of. Isn't that
where he was like from Mexico, but he could like throw like the fastest fastball anybody's ever seen? I thought it was based off that article. Like,
sounds familiar. It might have been
a gag. Yeah,
it might have been.
I think it was based off of that. Like, okay, well, what if this was real? But the kid was like, just speaking of which, it's funny is Elise She was visiting us a couple weeks ago, and so we were watching a movie one night, and we showed her Mrs. Winterbourne because I was like, let's just watch something light and funny. And she had never really clocked in on Brendan Fraser before, and she was like, "Oh, he's cute as a hippie." And then when the hippie version of him dies, and his twin brother shows up as like the astute businessman, she was like, "Who is that? I must have his babies." And so for the rest of her visit, every night was a new Brendan Fraser movie. And when we told her there was basically a movie where he was dressed up as Tarzan and he was in a loincloth for like 85% of this movie, she was like, "We got to watch that tonight." We're like, "Look, it's a bad movie." For those of you who are still watching this movie's called George of the Jungle, and it's terrible.
But in the best way.
But in kind of like the best way. So we're watching this movie, and so Laura and I, at one point, we're rolling our eyes at each other, and you hear Elise behind us go like, "Oh my God, he's so pretty." And I look at Laura and I say, "We are watching two different movies right now. We're watching a movie based on the merits. She's watching Brendan Fraser. And these are
which, to be fair, those are the merits."
Right. Those are the merits for her. Like, that was it. She was there for Brendan Fraser. She was like, "Look at his abs." But yeah, we went through like 4 or 5 Brendan Fraser movies, and we still didn't even get to like The Mummy, which for me is like top tier Brendan Fraser.
What?
Okay, wait a minute. Hold on. What was the name of that cartoon where all the Hanna-Barbera characters would have like rally races with cars?
Oh, there was The Amazing Race.
Was it Wacky Racers or something?
Wacky Racers.
Yeah, it was like Wacky Racers.
You want to talk about a crazy sport?
Wacky Races and Laugh Olympics. We should have covered.
Yeah, the Laugh Olympics was the other one.
Laugh Olympics, yeah.
Laugh Olympics. But yeah, Mrs. Winterbourne is amazing. And Encino Man also did have a lot of buff Brendan. We basically gave her a choice between Caveman or Tarzan, and she chose Tarzan. But she also got to see Blast from the Past and Airheads. And then a little bit later on, she got to see I'm sorry, Bedazzled. Not my choice. So there are still a few that she hasn't seen yet, but I'm like, oh, we got a list. So yeah, but
the original of that was better, much better.
Yeah, well, I mean, honestly, I still think that there are versions of Bedazzled that would be better that we've not seen. But yeah, I think the original is better than the Brendan Fraser one. But I think Brendan Fraser's hilarious in Bedazzled.
Yeah, well, he gets to stretch his acting chops so much in that one.
Oh, he's so funny.
Yeah.
But eventually we're going to work our way down to Monkey Bone, and I'm like, oh God, not Monkey Bone.
Oh, yeah, okay. That's when I bailed halfway through. I couldn't.
Like, seriously, but like, that's like watching Cool World. It's like, I just can't. Like, no.
So the cure for the poison is, if you go out on YouTube, I don't know exactly how he spells it, but if you go to YouTube and search for the Marble Olympics.
Oh yes, Gels Marble Runs.
This guy, Gels Marble Runs. If this guy has gotten a professional sports commentator to do the color commentary for marble racing, marble formula racing, the Marble Olympics, where he has all these weird marble-based events. And it is so amazing because if you don't look at the screen, it sounds exactly like the Olympics.
It really does. It does. It absolutely does.
Those events got me through the pandemic. Watching those on the YouTube as everything while we were in full lockdown was one of the few good things in life at that time. And it's the amazing thing is people who are not sports fans I've seen this. They watch it and they get invested because it's marbles.
Yeah.
I don't know what it is, but there's something about, oh, is that one going to make it? Is that one going to win the race?
Yeah.
And you get invested in this little thing. And then when John Oliver discovered it.
Oh yeah. John Oliver sponsored some stuff, which was great. That's such a great
He did
connection.
because they almost didn't do that season of the racing because the pandemic was basically, they didn't have the money for it. And John Oliver swooped in and he was like, we paid for the whole season. We're just done.
So if for those of you who are still with us, who are going, what are they talking about? Just do this. Look up the Marble Olympics, pick a year, pick a season. Marble Run.
Mm-hmm.
Pick a year, pick a season, whatever. Just randomly, or pick your favorite color team, or pick the worst pun team, and just support them for like an hour.
Yeah, and the all orange marble teams are the O Rangers.
The all orange.
The O Rangers, and those were my boys. The O Rangers won
yes.
a ton of stuff one year.
Mm-hmm.
Those were my boys because of the pun. Oh yeah. It was great. There was this, but what I'm saying is, if you watch this for just like even for 20 or 30 minutes, rooting for, just pick a team and root for them. it becomes so amazingly real and fun. My favorite thing that ever happened, and this is kind of morbid, is that during one of the competitive events where the marbles crashed into each other, one of his marbles actually broke, and they came up with this whole storyline of having these white and red Swiss Army. Hello. These Red Cross marbles came in, put the broken marble on a stretcher, took it to the hospital. They had all this drama about getting a replacement marble from the backup team. And it was awesome. It was better than the Olympics.
We were talking about the jelly marble runs that, we were watching like all back in the day and stuff. I know, but Joe forgot about us, so we're having fun now. So
did he fall asleep?
I don't know what happened to Joe. He broke his coccyx and his cloaca, so we're carrying the mantle, and people are still watching. So we're like, we're going to just keep talking until they kick us off. Like we're here for it. So,
yes.
And by the way, for those of you who are still watching,
I thought you could just bruise your coccyx.
I'm sure you can break it if you try hard enough.
Well, speaking of Star Trek Next Generation,
Joe found a way.
Joe found a way. Marina Sirtis broke her coccyx doing a stunt, and afterwards, when she watched the video of the stunt that broke her tailbone, her response to the video was Worf in the Deanna Troi outfit could have done that stunt, and no one would have known the difference.
Right.
She totally wasted an injury on that stunt.
So let's see here.
Hold on, Tony.
Let's see. Oh, little puppy Olympics here.
Puppy.
So we've turned this panel into an endurance sport, apparently.
It's Sasha. This is the Sasha. Hello. She decided to come see why everybody was crawling over here. Yeah, she was, because she's a good girl. She's our little luck dragon. Doesn't she look like Falcor? Does she look like a little Falcor? Okay. Yeah,
you need to put a little Boba Fett on her.
Yeah, little Boba Fett. Yeah, come on. Yeah. Okay, here you go. So, and then we have the other one, but I don't think she'll let me.
She would have a mud horn.
She would have a mud horn. Yes.
She's a baby Yoda Mando puppy.
So right now, Corday has been sitting next to me the entire time, but Corday is snuggled in pretty hard. I couldn't really move her without, like, she just rolled over and basically is like, don't pick me up.
Don't touch me.
Yeah, she's like, you can touch me, but just don't pick my butt up. So
don't touch me.
It's like fair enough. But no, I mean, I don't know where the hell we are in the conversation now. Like, Darin, I mean, you can just go. I mean, you can literally just hit. You could actually hit like leave studio, and then you're just gone if you want to. I mean, I'll solo this until Joe stops. Until Joe hits the stop button, I'm not. Hey, he's there!
Help! I broke out of the back of the ambulance.
We made it.
So as I was saying, Joe and his
Welcome back, Joe. How's the coccyx?
Not great. It's not great. It's not doing great. You guys need me to leave. Yeah, all right, I'm gonna shut it down. You guys, are you ready to go?
Ready to go.
No, I'm not. I'm not.
Joe, I think they got the trank. Joe, they're telling me they got the trank darts. You better run.
Yeah.
Guard your cloaca.
Oh, we're still alive.
Wait, you got.
We're still alive.
Joe, we appreciate the method acting, but he's not.